Hello friends, Mandar here. I'm back with another video. Today we saw an interview with Department of State with Charlie Oppenheim, and I wanted to make a summary video out of it. So this video is supposed to give you a summarized version of the answers that Charlie gave to almost 16 to 17 questions that were pre-submitted and also during the session. I have gone through the full 45 minutes of the video and I'll shorten it down to 10 to 15 minutes for you. There were some interesting things that were mentioned by Charlie that I would like to share. So if you're interested in this topic, watch this video until the end and let's get started. If you're here for the first time, welcome. My name is Mandar and I make immigration related videos for US and Canada. I'm not an immigration lawyer, so anything that I say on my video or on my channel is for information purpose only. And for your specific immigration needs and before you take any action, you should hire a competent immigration lawyer. Now, before we go into the interview summary with this Department of State, I'd like to mention something that I noticed in my previous video in terms of comments and responses that I got on my email. Now, all of my videos take a long time to create. I do a lot of study, lot of reading before I commit or before I say anything on the video. And most of the things that I also say comes from my experience going through these processes. Also, most of the things that I mention on my video and on my channel are factual basis. So basically, what are the policies, what are the processes, and what are the things that the government has approved in terms of policy or in terms of what is the law. But there are one-off videos that I make and I have been recently making about the speculative aspect of the things. So bills coming into the Congress that are not yet approved. Now, a lot of other people and lawyers may also be talking about those, but all the things that I mention on my videos are my personal interpretations and opinions. So as I read through those texts, whatever I interpret based on my knowledge, I kind of convey it through my video. Now, most of the times they are accurate on these speculative videos, but sometimes they may be wrong and I acknowledge them. I'm okay if somebody can point it out to me and state it's wrong. But I never go on to the other YouTubers channels or any other lawyers videos to get that information for you. Anything that I say on this video is only from my research and my opinion. So I would say that there is no pointing in comparing my analysis with anybody else. This is just a speculative analysis. Any bill before it becomes a law goes through a lot of revisions and a lot of corrections and changes. Now, even this bill that we talked about in my previous video is going to go through a lot of changes until it finally becomes a law. And Charlie also alluded to this in today's interview. And especially the text of these bills and all these laws are open for interpretation. They are clear to a certain extent, but after that there is a lot of ambiguity and a lot of opportunity for interpretation. That's the reason we have court system in this country. The Supreme Court and the judicial system, they are the ones who interpret the law and give us the final verdict. The latest example is DACA. Even though it has been in place for last 7-8 years, recently a certain federal judge disqualified it. They said it was illegal. So how did that happen? Because the law in itself was open for interpretation. It depends on who looks at it. The final verdict has to be made by the judiciary system. So that's all I wanted to say regarding my previous video. So now let's see what Charlie said in his interview today. Again, if you are new to this video, the Department of State, they have started doing the interviews with Charlie Oppenheim, who is the Chief of Immigration Visa Control. So he's the guy who has all the numbers for the visa bulletin for you every month. Now, they have started doing this interview and we'll look at all the questions that were answered today. Now, the first question is, all the documents were submitted to the NVC and everything is completed, priority date is current, but the visa interview is still not happened. What is the reason? Then Charlie said that the NVC continues to give out appointments, but depending on the local jurisdictions and local restrictions, there are only certain things that NVC can do, and that's probably the reason why there might be some delays in although your priority date is current. Now, inter-country adoptions and expedited visa numbers also come into play. So when there are expedited case based on the national security or national interest, they take precedence, and that's why the other visa interviews kind of fall behind. So that is the kind of explanation that he gave. Now, the second question is, will EB3 India final action date reach January 1st of 2014 as per the application filing date that was put in at the beginning of the year? And yes, that's what Charlie says. In the September visa bulletin that will be announced, the EB3 India final action date should reach January of 2014. Now there was another question, do you have any information on unused family-based numbers and employment-based numbers? Charlie did say that the Department of State and USCIS are doing everything that they can to process all these numbers, but there are still going to be some unused numbers. He did mention that there is a significant increase in the processing of family-based numbers. The unused family-based numbers is going to go down to 150k, which I think is still the same what he mentioned in the past. That is 150k spillover numbers might come to EB category next year, so which makes up to the 290 that he is throwing out. On the other side, and he did confirm the speculation that I made a couple of videos back as well, that 100k unused employment based visa numbers will be seen by the end of this year. So there will be 100,000 unused employment based visa numbers that will be wasted this year. Another question was, all the filing dates have been reached, and but which is not true for family based category. So he did reiterate that that is based on a lot of things that are happening in the consulates. About 95% of family based visas are processed outside of the country, and they did not open on time, and that's why we are seeing that family based dates for filing dates chart were not reached. But for the employment based category, all the dates were reached except the EB3 India category. Another question was, can you provide moment for family based October for the October visa bulletin? And then he said that except for Mexico and Philippines, the dates may not significantly move. For Mexico and Philippines, he said for the initial couple of months the dates will move and then stall a little bit, but for the rest of the countries the dates may not move because the demand is still very high. Now another question, the bill regarding the appropriations committee in the House that was passed, and that's exactly the video that I was mentioning previously. The question was, what is the impact of this proposal? And Charlie clearly said that he's not at liberty to discuss this. Now the next question was, many of the employment based category final action dates are progressing at rapid pace. Will they all become current? And the clear answer was no. So he clearly said that he's not going to make any dates current for employment based category that are obviously that are not current already. He said that based on the demand that he's seeing, they can utilize the numbers and there is no need to create additional demand. So creation of additional demand is basically progressing them or making them current, where a lot of people can apply at the same time, which creates the demand. He's saying he already has that demand, so there is no need to make anything else current. Then there was a common question, how do you determine the final action date and filing date chart? And then it depends on the various other factors, and I think he had covered this particular question in last couple of interviews as well. It all depends on what information he gets from the other entities or other agencies such as USCIS and NVC, and from the consulates abroad. He kind of crunches all those numbers based on what is the demand, what are the number of visas available. He kind of makes that prediction for final date action date chart. For filing date chart, he can make that prediction for the next 6 to 12 months, because that's when he expects the dates to be reached once he makes changes to the filing date chart. Another question was, what are the chances of EB3 India in final action date chart to become current? And he did allude to that that he will see it in the foreseeable future, but that doesn't mean anything because how many number of years that we don't know. So that question was not clearly answered in my opinion. Next question was, will the rest of the world make progress for F4 in the F4 category in the August visa bulletin? And he said that worldwide dates may advance in September along with Mexico and Philippines, and starting October only Mexico and Philippines will advance a little bit for a couple of months, but rest of the world is not expected to move. It will hold for a significant amount of time. Then there was a question about July visa bulletin approximates 7 months of difference. How are these processed? He actually split the question into two. He mentioned that USCIS portion of the question is about the processing time, although they say that it's going to take like 18 to 36 months. How is it that it's going to be processed within within the next month. So that is a separate question. Anybody who is current and is in the final stage of the green card, and if their visa number is not allocated, they will still get processed in the upcoming months, maybe in FY 2022, and that's when the visa number will be allocated to them. There was another question: are spillovers allocated only in the last months? And then the answer was no, they can be used earlier. In fact, that's what he has been doing. He had been allocating the spillover numbers right from the beginning, because there are the EB1 category is already current, so there is enough visa numbers to fill the demand for EB1. So he kind of speculated that it's okay to start using the spillover numbers directly to EB2 and EB3. Now, as I mentioned in the past, he also alluded to the retrogression question. If the dates are moved very fast, then there is a possibility that in the month of August and September the dates could stall or retrogress, and that is what he alluded to. If conditions change that requires the corrective action, then that corrective action is made in the later part of the fiscal year in August and September, and that's when, if the dates have been progressed too fast, then they can stall or they can retrogress at that point of time. That's what he mentioned. So he also gave an example. EB3 date was set at January of 2015 early on in October, but as months progress, he had to make a correction and retrogress it to January of 2014. There was a question about EB2 India, that it has progressed 1 year and 9 months in 2021, and with one more visa bulletin left. Will it be the same progression in the next year? Charlie did say that it's too early to speculate. Let's wait until the August visa bulletin comes in, and that will give us a clearer picture of what we can expect, how much dates can progress in 2022. There was another question that in 2007 all the dates were made current so that everybody could apply for a green card, final stage of the green card. Will he do that again? And then the answer was clearly no. He is not going to make all the dates current at this point of time, because there is enough demand already, so he doesn't need to create any more demand by progressing the dates or make them current. So there was another question, understand why EB1A timelines are moving slowly. The question was not correctly interpreted. He said that can't do anything much better than making it current, but probably the question was, even though the dates were current, why aren't the files getting processed or green cards getting issued soon enough? And that has to do with the USCIS processing volume, in my opinion. Then there was question about the diversity visa numbers, whether they will be current. All 2021 ranks are now current, because they were not current until July, and they were made current recently. So same thing will happen in 2022. They won't be current to start with, but throughout the year they will progress and they will become current somewhere in the middle of next year. So there was a question about what are your insights into the EB dates movement in 2022. He said that there's not going to be a drastic moment in final action dates for EB in the first quarter, so don't expect to see a big jump in the final action date chart in the first quarter. As things progress throughout the year, then the final action date chart will start moving, but don't expect a big progression in the first few months. The reason, one of the reasons is a lot of people who are already current this year will still not get their green card issued utilizing the 2021 numbers. So what will happen is they will start using the spillover numbers from the next year. So the demand from this year will trickle down into next year. So that is why he cannot progress the final action dates for first couple of. There was a question about EB5 China, how much it will move. He said it will move by a week or two in September and then it will stall. There was another question, and this is a repeat question from last time, so I'm not going to spend much time. Why is EB2 and EB3 downgrades not seen? Why is it and the answer is same, because EB2 file for that particular those particular individuals is progressed far along in the process, where they are still holding on to the EB2 quota of the date, and the EB3 file progresses so far, then it will kind of flip that number from EB2 to EB3. Until then you will still see the EB2 date being held for that particular individual. Another question was, if you finish using the visa numbers in one category, will you give the spillovers to the next category? And the answer is yes, and we have seen it in multiple videos that all the visa numbers are allocated EB1 first, then spillovers go to EB2, and then any spillovers go to EB3, and the spillovers from EB4 and EB5 also come back to EB1. So that is kind of the chain that happens, and once within a category they are strictly processed by the priority date. So earliest priority date person will get their visa processed or green card processed before the later priority date, even if both the priority dates are current. Then there was a question about what are the circumstances that have changed in July and August for the large number of visa wastage. Charlie was able to answer that question, but the final verdict is that there will still be a large number of visas wasted or unused. For employment based category, it is around 100,000 visas. There is a specific question: do you expect EB3 final or filing date to reach January of 2016 in October? India? And the answer was definitely no for EB2, and maybe likely for EB3 because there is already too much demand. Again, the question was, what do you expect for October visa bulletin for EB2 and EB3? And then Charlie mentioned that we should wait until the September visa bulletin to come in and then speculate about what will happen in October. Another question: how does an applicant know if the applicant is documentarily complete? So there is no foolproof method, but nowadays people are allowed to submit their documentation online, and you can see the status of your application. So if there is anything missing, you will see that status online on NVC website. And then the last question was, when is the visa number actually considered utilized, or when is it given to an individual or a case? It varies according to Charlie. The overseas post, which is consulate, they give the block of numbers one at a time every month. The consulates use them at their perusal, and if there are any unused visa numbers, they bring them back to Charlie. Now for the cases within the United States, the visa number is allocated anywhere between after you file your 485 application until the case is adjudicated. But he did say that it is with a press of a button the officer can get a visa number, and that usually happens at the time of final action in the sense at the time of adjudication. And I think I mentioned that in my previous videos that a date or a visa number is assigned to a case when they are doing the actual adjudication of the case. So I think that's all Charlie mentioned in today's video. So hope you liked this summary, hope you got value out of this video. If you did, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel, and I will see you in the next one.